restricts sales of Tesla within country is our story for today. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. Also wanted to encourage you to consider Patreon. If you enjoy our discussion of the company, we do a daily Patreon show for our top subscribers to help you stay abreast of interesting stories going on for Tesla that might impact the stock significantly, which I believe today is one of them. So what happened is that this morning it was announced via, I believe, a Wall Street Journal article in CNBC that the Chinese government had decided to restrict access or purchases of Tesla vehicles to senior Chinese officials, both within the government and the military. So this was kind of a surprise, and I think that's illustrated in the fact that the stock price was down. Initially, it was up maybe 8 points. So in theory, it's had about a 30-point drop in the stock price, all the way down to as low as $625 a share. So there are a lot of unknowns associated with this, but we wanted to sort of front you with the news of what's been learned, but then go into some of the issues that are popping up related to this. So one of the big focuses of our show has been the whole theory of catfishing. So as you know, one of the strategies the Chinese government had done was they spent a couple of years wooing Elon Musk to come to China and actually build a factory. And he was reluctant to do so because there are a lot of rules restricting ownership of facilities 100% by outside entities. So most of the other manufacturers all have Chinese partners with whom they build vehicles. Tesla does not. The next thing was that we actually thought that, there's been a little bit of a cat and mouse game going on recently. So what happened is that we actually did a show about the fact that sales for both Nio XPeng and even, some Evergrande, all of those companies have experienced as much as 22% declines in sales associated with the Model Y. Now, another data point is that we actually had a situation where the Chinese government actually restricted sales of Model Y until the beginning of January. And that restriction helped the numbers for quarter four for all the Chinese producers in anticipation of how big the sales of the Model Ys were and how much that was going to hurt domestic producers. So one of the lurking questions that's been out there is the fact that how would this all play out? The numbers may not be exact, but it turns out that for example, Nio vehicle that's comparable to the Model Y was coming in at $56,000. With Tesla finally announcing the real price, that the price of the Tesla coming in at $42K, and then with government, which qualified for government subsidies, that brought the price down to $38,000-ish. So now we have an interesting problem, which is you have, in theory, a better vehicle in the Model Y coming in at $38,000, and Nio's vehicle is coming at $56,000. And so there are a lot of Chinese consumers that were canceling Nio sales, that were electing to choose Tesla instead of Nio or other producers in China. And so we were kind of stunned at the size of the gap in the number. And so all of a sudden, the next question was, how is this going to play out? Were the Chinese going to find a way to actually slow Tesla down and prevent the destruction of all the manufacturers within China? And so the answer to that is it was a giant unknown. We actually thought that what would happen here is that because 100% of the inputs to the Model Y were Chinese or domestically produced parts for Tesla now, that the government would be fine with declining sales for quasi-government-owned entities or controlled entities like Nio. So therefore, it would not end up being a problem for the government of China. So we thought this was how it was going to play out, so there wouldn't be any new restrictions. So what's been discussed is the fact that, there's this, how is China going to protect its industry? So on one hand, it wants Tesla to be in country to actually be able to help them deal with their pollution issues via electric vehicles. On the other hand, they've put as much as $100 billion into helping to foster a system of electric vehicles. And so to have Tesla come in and sort of wipe out all those companies that they've helped fund is a huge problem. So up until 48 hours ago, we actually had one of our viewers make the comment, it's hard to see how the Chinese are going to allow their domestic manufacturers to be destroyed by Tesla. So we should expect something to happen to address this issue. And I believe that this something to happen is what we're seeing now in the form of government restrictions. So if you read the article, what they point out is there's concern by the government of China that senior officials who own Teslas, as well as senior military officials who own Teslas, are divulging who they're calling. They're also, the location of the vehicles are known at the headquarters of Tesla in the United States. So therefore, this presents a security risk. I have to say, I find this, so that's sort of the nuts and bolts of what was articulated as to why this restriction was being imposed. I have to say, I find this really, really strange, because if you look at how Tesla or the government of China handles other entities, be it Google or Facebook or any of these other large companies, they basically, the Chinese military / government will work with the manufacturer to determine how technology is going to impact the country, impact individuals within that country. So I have to say that I'm very, very stunned to see this behavior, given that they've had a working partnership for a long time. There are a lot of people that already own the vehicle. And so this move seems very strange relative to the stated reasons for this. This now brings up a huge question mark, which is we / everybody else is expecting that half of Tesla's sales this year will come from China. The question then is, if you take away sort of government buyers at the high end, in theory, in one sense, that's not a lot of customers, so it wouldn't necessarily affect Tesla because it has a broad range of customers. And obviously that would hand those sales to those large high-level officials over to domestic manufacturers. The question mark, though, is, I guess, how deep down into the government ranks would this occur? One would think that the highest paid people in the country tend to be either executives in large corporations / senior officials, and so they most likely could afford these vehicles. So one wonders, well, how is this going to affect sales by Tesla within country? I believe it's going to cut, for sure, the number of vehicles sold. What's unclear, though, is how far down the ranks does this happen? And as you think through the decision made, you have to wonder, though, for example, if Tesla has all the data that's coming out of those cars for people that were lower in the ranks, and as they rose, their phone numbers or databases would change slightly, but not hugely. Where they live, et cetera, is not going to change dramatically, in theory, if they don't move around the country. So one could see an expansion in the numbers, because you not only have to deal with officials that are currently senior, but you have to anticipate which officials are restricted on a purchase, going into the future. So this situation, therefore, could actually result in large numbers of sales, maybe not in the millions, but definitely in the thousands that Tesla will not get. So I think this definitely boosts Nio XPeng and other manufacturers who are just about to get wiped out by Tesla. But the question mark that starts to pop in mind is, well, like, who's next or what's next? So the question mark is, if in fact this restriction doesn't generate enough sales to help keep Tesla competitors in China afloat, will China impose a new round of slowdowns for Tesla to try to help bolster the domestic manufacturers? So the answer is we don't know, but I believe this is a clear effort to keep those companies alive. I wouldn't put it past Elon to sort of figure this out with the Chinese government, but I think it could be rocky until it is figured out, and it definitely affects the company's prospects. The biggest wonderment I'm having is, should Elon have done the sort of workaround he did? So as you recall, in October of this year, the manufacturing facility was ready to go to produce Model Ys. It was announced by the Chinese government that they wouldn't allow Tesla to start sales of the Model Y until January, 2 months after the facilities were ready to go. So Elon actually went ahead and produced the vehicles, shipped them to several cities, but did not sell those vehicles or start selling them until the agreed upon date. So Tesla actually met the letter of the law of what they were supposed to do, but they didn't necessarily meet the spirit of the law, because I believe what the Chinese were trying to accomplish was to limit the start of production until January. That way, that would even give another 1 or 2 extra months to domestic manufacturers to sort of grab as many sales as they could before the Model Y came out. And by Elon sort of circumventing that, I think it sort of violated the spirit of what they were trying to accomplish. So I kind of bring this up because it now looks like there's a little bit of a battle going on, and the plan of China to, in letter and spirit, follow through on how and why they brought Tesla to China may not be there. I'm also reminded of the fact that as these factories were going up, there was a question that was posed by one of our viewers that, what if the Chinese choose to march Elon and all the Tesla executives out of country and just take over the manufacturing facilities built and kick them out of the country? We haven't reached that point yet, but I really think that this happening suggests that there could be a lot of ways this happens, and you have to go through mentally saying, what's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario in terms of what's going on? And I think right now we're seeing the worst case scenario, because Elon could have simply restricted all the data flow from the vehicles to the Chinese military, and this issue would have been over. So based on, it not being a privately done thing where there was just a shift in how Chinese data or data from Chinese vehicles was handled, and it was restricted from leaving country, and it was carefully looked through, as is the case for other tech companies. It just has a whole feel of behavior that belies the fact that the Chinese government is nervous about the loss of all the companies out there that really cannot compete with Tesla. I suppose the final note that I want to make on this, because I think there's going to be a lot more out there, is I saw an article regarding the Nio executive was having a conversation about, what's actually happening. There was a question mark that came to the CEO of Nio asking him about how they would respond to the low price of Tesla. And their response was that, in essence, we're a premium company, so we have no interest in meeting the Tesla low price point. And so therefore, we're going to maintain our price and simply go from there. I read the comment and I was kind of shocked, because I was like, okay, you're not going to have a response to this. There is somewhat of a response from Nio in the fact that they do offer to swap batteries out, so you can buy or lease a cheaper battery, and when you need a longer range battery, they can lease that to you so you can do swaps. So that's been one of Nio's efforts to, sort of offer a better price than Tesla could. But it's a great idea and concept, very challenging for busy consumers to go to whatever locations and have batteries swapped out. This activity, I think, is very challenging. So I wanted to suggest that there was no sort of good response that was available that's been offered on how to deal with Tesla in country. I also would say that, I really feel like Elon pulled a fast one, because when he announced that they were taking early sales at a $68,000 per price point for the Model Y built in China, and he didn't tell us how many had been reserved or ordered, it was kind of a shock to then have the vehicle arrive at 42K when everyone was expecting it to be 68,000 and not buy it. So I just feel like right now there's a tit for tat with a lot of sales and revenue and profit attached to it between the Chinese government, Tesla, and Elon. And I just think that, the Chinese government are sort of holding all the ability to control and do damage here. And I think that, the decline in stock price is kind of wise relative to the data given. And we're hopeful that they can work this out so the company can continue to grow and deliver a nice stream of products and volumes and high volumes of them into China. So I want to give kudos to our viewer who actually anticipated that there would be some kind of response from the Chinese government to slow Tesla down in order to avoid bankrupting all of their domestic producers. And all we can do right now is just stay tuned to see what Elon's G4 flying to China can get done in terms of cleaning up this issue. At any rate, this is Greg for Teslafaninsight. I want to remind you of your 25 leg lifts. Also want to encourage you to consider the 2-5 or another of the fasting diets. Most of the doctors we surveyed are doing it. We also want to encourage you to consider no more than once a week fried foods. Also wanted to encourage you to consider do not go to bed within 4 hours of eating, preferably minimum 2 hours to allow the food to digest, eliminating the chance of cancer in your upper respiratory area. And we also want to make a suggestion that if you're going to do lovemaking, to go for the light salad or something of that ilk, because that will restrict the amount of blood that's being used to digest food and be available for other parts of the body. At any rate, we really look forward to your constructive comments on this. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss, German, au revoir, French, Lehithro, Hebrew, Choda, Ves Farsi, Zdravstvuyte, Russian, Ni hao ma, Chinese, Konbanwa, Japanese, good day, our friends in Australia, Zdravstvuyte, Russian, and in India, Namaste. In Jamaica, we say, no respect, walk good man. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, and bye for now.